Yeah, so that's we talked a little bit about consecutive integers, right? And if you start talking about problems, now these problems are not about setting you up for the real world. Nobody in the job says, hey, find three integers such that the sum of the twice of the first is 2 less than 3 times the third. What they're trying to set you up for is the idea that you got a problem solve. And so often in the world, things happen in order, right? Every 7th hog has to be tested for weight. Every 50th spam can has to be checked. Those have to be programmed. And again, the job of some people is just to watch the spam cans go by. They make a certain level of pain, and then the job of someone to program it is someone else. If you're going to find 3 consecutive integers, you have to think about this. How do 3 consecutive integers look on a number line?
1 apart.
They're 1 apart. Do we agree? Somewhere on a number line there are 3 numbers right now, like this. And we could call them X, Y, and Z, or A, B, and C. The point is, that gives us 3 variables. And if there's 3 variables, how many equations do you need to solve? 3. You guys know how to do 3 equations, 3 unknowns yet?
No.
No. So let's not go there. But if we know the first one is some unknown n, we know this gap this time is 1. So this one is n plus 1. And the gap here is 2. And this is n plus 2. Likewise, we're going to use these variables in a second. But think about this. If I was tested every 7th hog, the first hog I test would be the nth hog. What would
It would be n plus 7.
And the gap would be n plus 7. The next one would be n plus 14. Point is, every time you get a problem in the world where it's consecutive, you have to think about what the gap is. Yeah, Chelsea.
Or they always ask you like 3 consecutive integers?
Nope. Sometimes they ask for 4. Sometimes they ask for 2. Sometimes they
You
ask.
ever ask for 1? Just 1 integer.
Well, we do that all the time. 2x plus 7 equals 9. What integer is that? 1.
Your favorite integer.
One of my favorite integers. All right. So everybody, what's the first number in this number line this time? N. What's the second number?
N plus 1.
And what's the third?
N plus 2.
All right. So here we go. Find 3 consecutive integers such that twice the sum. You guys agree? Twice the sum is 2 times the sum. Sum of what? The first 2.
So n and n plus 1.
Yep, n and n plus 1. All right. Is 2 less? Well, is equal. How do we write 2 less?
Minus
Minus 2. It's 2 less, so it's negative 2. Then 3 times the third. What is the third?
N plus 3.
And you have to put the n plus 2 in parentheses because that is one thing, right? It's one number. Yes, ma'am.
Oh. This always wants to add
Nope. I don't always want that. I want you to determine what the gap is. Because what if I ask for every 7th thing? What if I ask for every other thing?
It'd be 2.
N plus 2. We'll get there, all right? But it's always the gap, and you always have to determine it, and you always have to think in some sort of number line process. Yes.
So in the first set of parentheses, would n plus 1 have to be in parentheses before they or not?
You could be. Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I skipped a step. It should be, but when you distribute, all right, since there's just a plus sign, have you guys learned that every time there's a plus sign, it just stays the same? Every time there's a minus sign, it just changes sign. So I'm not going to put them in. I am going to simplify here. You guys agree this is 2 times 2n plus 1?
Yes.
Equals, over here, negative 2 plus 3n plus 6. And I
You
get,
don't have a what? No. The first side. No.
n plus n.
Wouldn't that be? Yeah, but shouldn't there be a 2n in front of that?
I just combined these 2 n's. That's all I did.
Oh, okay.
Now I distribute.
Okay. Oh, okay, never mind. I forgot.
And I think I get 3n plus 4. Get the variables on one side, minus 3n, minus 3n. N plus 2 equals 4. So I get n equals 2. Is that my answer?
It's 2, 3, and 4.
Boom. And that's for 3 consecutive integers. So I have to remember I had this. I got to go back to the top of the board. My first integer is 2. My next integer is 3. My third integer is 4.
And that equals 9.
Talk about this. So remember, one of the shortcuts you tend to gravitate to is, hey, I know this. Every single time I see the word consecutive, I'll just use n plus 1, and n plus 2, and I don't have to think. But what if I ask, what if I ask for consecutive, we'll do odd, consecutive odd numbers. Yeah, and you guys agree, 3, 5, 7, 9, 101, 103, 105, 992, 3, 993, 995, 197, negative 3, negative 1, 1, negative 12, 11, negative 9, negative 7. So the point is, if I think of the number line, and I find an odd number, this is my first odd, which I call n. How far is it to the next odd? 2. It is 2 over. So this time, my second thing that's consecutive that's odd is n plus 2.
N plus 4, right?
Yes.
So if you have it as odd, would it be n plus?
This
I mean for evens.
Okay, let's do evens. Everybody, you guys agree this would be NE? This would be an even number? Because the odd is then the next one has to be even? It would still be n plus 2 for the next one.
And then n plus 4.
It's still n plus 4. Think about it. Why?
Because you're always going every other.
It is a gap. A gap between two odds is 2. A gap between two evens is 2. Alright? So,
Oh, what's your end up? Like your view. Oh, wait, never mind. That one's down.
yeah, you guys are getting... Alright, you guys keep running. I'm going to start talking through this. 4 consecutive integers. I think of the number line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them right back to back. I like calling the first one in. I suppose you could call it X. You could call it U. You could call it smiley face. We don't care. But the gap this time is 1. Which means this is n plus 2 then. And the last one is n plus 3. So the first is n, the second is n plus 1, the third is n plus 2, the fourth is n plus 3. Then it says, now it's just translating math to English. Or English to math. Like 6 times the sum. First and fourth. First is n, fourth is n plus 3. This is the first, second, third, fourth number. Is 26 less, negative 26. Then 10 times the third. The third has to be in parentheses, one thing. So this should get me the equation you get. And again, this is something we should be able to solve pretty easy. And I think you're going to get that n in this case is first and fourth, then 10 times the third. I'm right. Okay, I'm right. All right, and the point is, if you solve this, I think you get n equals negative 12. All right, that is not our answer.
Negative 12, negative 11, negative 10.
Nice catch, because we know as we go right, negative numbers go that way. And it's not negative 12, negative 13, negative 14, negative 15, which is a common mistake.
That was the thing that caused me the most problems when they give 6 surface or whenever we learned about negatives.
Yep, and it goes the other way. And I always compare it to money. Would you rather be negative $4 in the hole to me or negative 10? Would you rather be negative 4? Find 3 consecutive even integers. All right, I picked the first even integer, which is just some random space on the number line. I don't really care where it is. We know the next even integer is 2 away. And we know the next even integer is 4 away, because what's in between these? Even, odd, even, odd, even.
That's your first one.
All right, so, and again, because we don't just automatically assume n plus 1, n plus 2, do we, Skylar? No.
Dang it.
So, let me write the equation. The sum of the first and the second, n plus 2, equals the sum of the third, n plus 4, and negative 10. Again, I'm not going to solve this out, but I'm going to tell you that this is the equation. If you solve this, you get n is negative 8. Now, what if I had gotten negative 7? Boom. It had to be even at least. The easiest double check there is.
Oh, I
This
got
is
it right,
even.
okay.
Because
So
you
now-
plug it in the end.
The answer is -8.
Negative
There we go.
6.
And welcome to defining the gap. Let's put, how many guys ever played football out in the playground here? Did you ever kick field goals? No.
Yeah.
Did you ever kick extra points? No. So how did you guys count? By
We
7,
played.
didn't you?
No, we just played.
Okay, when I was a kid, we counted by 7. So if you want to see how many, consecutive scores for a Pee Wee football game in the grass was 7, 14, 21, 28. N plus 7, N plus 14.
Well, in that case, why would they just go by one?
Yeah.
We just don't do it. 'Cause the NFL doesn't go by
Why
one.
don't they
That's
just go
why.
by one? We
Yeah,
have to
because
know.
why
Oh,
do
wait.
they have to go next?
All right, everybody listen. The point is we have to know the gap.
Yeah,